All right, welcome to lesson 4.1. We're going to be multiplying terms that have variables in them, multiplying variable terms. All right, so let's make sure we understand what 12x means. 12x means 12 if x is 2 times x, so x is 2 here, which is 24. Right, so there's some patterns here. Take a look at them. Well, 1 times 12 times 2 is 1, you do inside parentheses first, like it doesn't really matter here. 12 times 2, because it's all multiplying. 12 times 2 is 24. All right, so both numbers 1 and 2 have the answer 24. All right, let's see number 3. 4 times 2 plus 4 times 2 plus 4 times 2. Well, 4 times 2 is 8, and so this is 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 equals 24 again. Interesting. This is 3 times 4 times 2. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 8, 24. This is 6 times 2 plus 6 times 2, which is 12 plus 12, also 24. And this is 2 times 6 times 2, and 2 times 6 times 2 is 12, so 2 times 12, also 24. They're all 24. And what I'd like to point out here is it didn't matter what x is, no matter what number I had made x, all of these would have had the same answer. And the reason is there are 12 x's in every single one of them. Right? There's obviously 12x in number 1, and number 2 is 1 times 12x. And it turns out 1 times 12x is still 12x's. And 4x's plus 4x's plus 4x's is 12x's, right? If you have 4 apples plus 4 apples plus 4 apples, you have 12 apples. These are 4x's, so adding, right, those makes 12x. What we're going to be doing today is multiplying variable terms. And so this is 3 times 4x. Look, right, what's 3 times 4x? It's 4x added together 3 times, but 3 times 4 is 12. This is 12x. Okay, and 6x plus 6x is also 12x, and therefore 2 times 6x is also 12x. So if I'd made x a million, these all would have had the same answer, which would be 12 million, 12 times a million, all right? Because they all had 12x, variable terms. These are terms with variables in them, right? So this 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 is 20x. This is also 5x times, 4 times. 4 times 5x, 20x. We're multiplying variable terms. All right, so coefficient, most important vocabulary word of the year. The coefficient is the number that multiplies a variable. It's always in front of the letter, always. So circle the coefficients here. 9 is a coefficient, x is right, so that's the variable, right? And 9 is a coefficient. Y is a variable, 2 is a coefficient. So those are called, I don't need to rewrite it, it's right above it. And so these are both coefficients. My pen is messing up, there you go. 6 is not a coefficient, right? It's not multiplying a variable. So find the coefficients here. -3 is a coefficient, all right? And 4 is a coefficient there. Now this is a minus sign, right? So this was a negative sign in front of the 3, so it's part of the coefficient. That's a minus sign, and so it's different, okay? And 8 is not multiplying any letters, but there is one more coefficient, and it's right there. What's the coefficient there? The coefficient there is 1, right? Because we don't write 1y, we write y instead, but it still has a coefficient of 1. All right, so we're going to multiply variable terms. We're going to multiply the coefficient, right? So what's the coefficient? 4. So we're going to multiply that coefficient and keep the variable. So 9 times 4 is 36. We keep the variable x. 9 times 4x is 36x, right? I don't want to write it out, but that's 4x being added together 9 times. So we have 6 is our coefficient. We're going to multiply that 6 by the negative 7. One negative in the problem, one negative in the answer, still true, negative 42y, keeping the variable y. Okay, so we have two coefficients here, negative 8 and negative 3, and we're going to multiply negative 8 times negative 3, 24, and we keep the letters x and y. So negative 8x times negative 3y is 24xy. That's how you say it. It's x times y. 24 times x times y. Right? That's not the multiplication symbol. Right? And right, we know this is multiplying because there's no operation. There's no adding, subtracting, or division there. It must be multiply. And, you know, we use x and y usually, but it doesn't have to be. Negative 5 times 12 is negative 60. Keep g and h. Negative 60 gh. Negative 60 times whatever g is times whatever h is. Right, the identity property of multiplication says you multiply by 1, it won't change the number. So 1 times x is x. We know that, right? So 1 times 9 is 9, right? Identity property. Now what's 0 times x? Well, 0 times 9 would be 0. So 0 times x is 0. So this one is called the identity property. All right. That over there is called the zero product property. You multiply two numbers, multiply to make 0. One of them or both of them had to be 0. You don't have to know that one yet. That's next year for you guys. This one is identity. Multiply by 1, the number doesn't change. Okay, now we're going to make it more complicated. Take these notes. So 3x times 8x, right? The coefficients, 3 times 8 is 24. But this is x times x, and so we have to put x squared. So I want to write a problem below it, right? So 3 times 8x, that's the one that's 24x, right? This is 3x times 8x. That's 24x squared, because x times x is x squared. All right, so what's that one? Hopefully you realize that's 7y squared. There's a 1 there. 7 times 1 is 7. Y times y, y squared. What's this one? 2 times 9 times 1 is 18. Y times y times y, y cubed. You say that is 18y cubed. All right, we're making it more complicated. So there's a 1 there and a 1 there. You don't have to write those in. 1 times 4 times negative 8 times 1. 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. Now, x times x times x is x cubed. Right? There are 3 x's there being multiplied, not added. And there's a y. And so x times 4x times negative 8x times y is negative 32x cubed y. That's how you say that. Negative 32x cubed y. Right, area of the rectangle, right? Area is length times width. Right, so let's call that the length and the width, right? So it would be 8y times 12. Well, 8 times 12 is 96, and so 96y. Find the area of the square. Well, still length times width, but the sides are both the same here. So this is 7x times 7x. And 7x times 7x is 49x squared. Right? And now you're seeing where x squared, right? If you have a square with sides of x, the area of that square is x squared. That's where it all comes from. Right, for the volume of a rectangular prism, that's what this thing is. This is a rectangular prism. We're going to multiply the length times the width times the height. So this 12x has to be the height, and we can call that the width and that the length. But it's 6x times x times 12x. Well, 6 times 12 is 72. X times x times x, x cubed for the volume here. Here, right, same thing, length times width times height, so it's 22y times 2y times 4y, and we can do 2 22 times 2 is 44. And then 44 times 4, I'm getting 176y cubed. But let's also, when it was a square, right, for x times x, you got x squared. If I make, what's this shape? This shape is a cube, right? And so if I make that a cube, what would be the volume of that? Be y times y times y. Y cubed. That's where that comes from. All right, now, I highly recommend you write this out. This is 5y, the whole thing squared. So it's 5y times 5y. Because if you write it out, then it's like all the others. So this is 25y squared. Try this one. So negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 is negative 8, right? Because negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Or we can just realize 3 negatives in a multiplication problem must be negative, right? An odd amount of negatives, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. The answer is negative. X times x times x, x cubed. All right, we're at the practice. Do all these before I go over the answers. Positive 48, two negatives make a positive. XY, right? That's X, not the time symbol. This is an example of the identity property of multiplication. Yeah, I put a bunch of 12 times 8 here because if I put 12 times 8 on a test, people get it wrong. It's 96. So this is 96x cubed. Right? Two negatives make a positive. There are two negatives in that problem. This is the tougher one. Three negatives make a negative. 3 times 9, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. So this is negative 27x cubed. So length times width, or 12xy times 6x. 12 times 6, 72. X times x, x squared, and then you bring along the y. And what's going on here is x and y are missing information. But once you know x and y, you'll know that the area of this rectangle is 72 times the missing information for x squared times the missing information for y. Good luck on your homework.